Hello and welcome. Well, today we're discussing a topic a little bit different and left of field to what we normally discuss, that being the subject of dreams. Dreams have meaning, of course, and they hold symbolic and sometimes hidden cryptic messages for us. And as we've all experienced, some of our dreams can be explained and others can't. Of course, some of our dreams we can remember and others not so much. And for the dreams that we can remember, it can be really challenging and intriguing trying to categorically interpret them and the message that they contain and how, of course, it's relative to our life. So the question is, what are our dreams telling us? Well, that's what we're here to discuss today with our special guest, Rose Inserra. Now, she's an author of the recently published book, Inside Your Dreams, an Advanced Guide to Your Night Visions. Now, a little bit about our guest. Drawing on her experience as an author and a researcher, Rose has written over 60 children's books, and her books are published and marketed internationally. Now, Rose is a member of the International Association for the Study of Dreams and appears on a regular basis in print media and as a guest speaker on radio. Thank you for joining us today, Rose. I'm so excited to be chatting about this subject. How are you?
Thanks, Rachel. Thank you so much for having me. I'm pretty well, thank you, considering pretty well.
I know life is a little bit topsy-turvy for everyone at the moment. And I'm really excited to have a chat about how, I guess, the world as it is affecting, I guess, our sleep and our dreams at the moment. And of course, I'm sure each one of us have wondered at one time or another, what are our dreams telling us? What do they mean? So as an expert in this space, just initially, I'd love to know what brought you to being a thought leader on this subject. I'd love to know.
Look, I've always been absolutely fascinated with dreams. It's part of my Italian heritage that we always used to tell our families when we woke up, what did you dream last night? Even as kids, that was something that we did naturally. So we were able to express our deepest, craziest dreams that we had. And make some sense out of it because it didn't make sense. And therefore, over the years, I started to see patterns emerging and I got more fascinated and started to say, wow, people all over the world are having the same dreams. What could they mean? What's this all about? And therefore, I became very curious to understand what is it about our psyche that creates these images that we can't explain, but everyone else is experiencing the same topics and dreams in dreams. So that was my love long wanting to know more. I thought, what I really, really want to know more. So I got into the research part. I joined many, many organisations, and people all over have written to me about their dreams. And for some reason, most of the time, I can really get into the nitty gritty of that dream and work it out for people, give them some tools so they can do it themselves.
It's fascinating stuff. I was reading in preparation for the interview today that according to Sigmund Freud, dreams are, quoting, imagery or of a wish or impulse that has been repressed, and our dreams reveal your repressed or our repressed wishes back to us. Fascinating stuff. I'd love to know, what are your thoughts on that?
That is quite true. Look, Freud did have some good points as what he made. It was all about wish fulfillment as far as Freud was concerned, and repressed emotions. I would call them more suppressed than repressed. So there are times during our waking life we can't express all our emotions, how we feel. For example, if you're in a work environment and you're really annoyed with a boss or a co-worker, you're not going to go up to them and actually express yourself to tell them, this is what's going on. You
shouldn't.
Some people do.
You want to keep your job.
Yes, that's right. But so all those emotions they're still there. They just sit quietly there until it's time for them that we allow them to come out while we're in our deepest sleep. That's the REM, what we call the REM sleep, which is the rapid eye movement sleep, which is where we dream the most. That's the dream cycle. And everything is in there. It's all these juicy, fantastic emotions that are just held back during the day. And that's where the suppression and the wish fulfillment comes into. That's why dreams are so rich in imagery. They can't come out in any other way except in images. And therefore you think, well, I wouldn't purposely go and hunt somebody down that's certainly not what I wish to do. But the dream is just rich in its tapestry. It's saying, that's exactly how you're feeling. You really don't want to do this, or you really want to chase whatever it is that you're chasing. And it just shows it to you in a wonderful narrative. It's like a movie set.
It is.
And I guess, I think people can relate to that.
Yes. Well, there's lots to cover. So I just wanted to acknowledge first, before I get stuck into all the questions that I've prepared for you, we published your article, and the title is What You Need to Know About Interpreting Your Dreams and What They're Telling You. So now, for someone who hasn't read your article yet, can you please tell us what the article is about, and of course, just what inspired you to write it?
Just briefly, so what do you really need to know about your dreams? What you need to know, dreams are, again, as I said, images, and they're themes. So some of the common dreams, for example, is something we all share. Many people, you wouldn't believe the most common dream that I get asked about all the time. I'm sure you won't think, any ideas, Rachel? You think there might be
the most common dreams are that we have?
One. Yeah, just one. Think what the most common one you think.
Well, I would have no idea, because I actually don't remember a lot of my dreams at all. So I'd love to know.
Okay. So that's tied in with your question. So the most common one that I get asked for all the time is losing your teeth.
Oh, yes.
Okay, and for whatever reason, all my talks that I've done, that is something that people remember the most because it has the most emotional impact on you. So what you need to know about your dream is the dream that has the most emotional impact on you is the one you're likely to remember. And as you said, sometimes most people say to me, I don't dream. Well, that's factually wrong. We all do dream. It has been proven clinically that we all dream. However, remembering is the problem, because during that dream time, and neurotransmitters that are used for memory are slowing down while we're dreaming. So that's why it's so hard when we awake to remember them. But we all do dream. Yeah. So if a dream's had an emotional impact, you're going to more likely to remember, or you might feel a certain way when you wake up in the morning, think, gee, I'm exhausted, or gee, I'm feeling happy. Or most of the time it's anxiety dreams, unfortunately, that we tend to remember the most.
So, yeah. Okay. And I guess a lot of people are experiencing anxiety dreams at the moment with what's happening around the world as well, which we'll cover off in just a little bit. I just wanted to I just ask the question then, whilst I have you, of course, I do remember having a dream when my teeth were falling out. So what does that dream mean? If you could just, so I'm sure everyone watching and listening has had that dream at some point at one time or another.
Well, it's one of the top 20 dreams in the world. So if you haven't had one, you may have one, or you may know of somebody who'll remember that they've had one. So teeth in all cultures signify strength and power, because how are you going to eat? Even when you smile and you're in front of people, it shows your strength, your beauty, your ability to speak out and be confident. When those teeth crumble, or you swallow them, or they're broken, or one person said they were like missiles flying out of their mouth at one point. And it's such a visual imagery, such how can I say it? It's so
vivid.
It's most frightening, and it's vivid, but it's also really frightening because you do feel like you've lost power, and you feel, so when in your real life, when you're feeling that you're losing confidence, that you're a bit self-conscious about who you are, and you don't have a voice, particularly when you're in a new role, you're starting a new job, you're in a new role, whatever that might be, all of a sudden you have that dream that kind of indicates, wow, I don't know if I know what I'm talking about, or I'm not so sure of myself anymore.
Interesting. And that's what it signifies. Okay. You've mentioned also that our dreams have common universal themes and sequences. Can you please explain what they are? I'd love to know.
Yeah, so apart from that dream, another major dream theme is falling. So many people report that the sensation of falling, or realistically dreaming that they're falling off a cliff or from great heights. And again, these are more anxiety-based dreams. So it's to do with when you're not feeling supported and you're falling down. And in your real life, they mirror our real life experiences and emotions. So most of our dreams, there are some prophetic dreams, there are dreams that are about inventions and problem solving, but the bulk of our dreams really center around our anxieties and fears in our everyday life. And so other than falling, you have the naked dream. All of a sudden you're naked in front of you're walking down, you're in the shopping center or you're walking in public.
I haven't had that dream yet.
Look down. No. Well, that's
thank goodness for everybody else involved.
It's feeling vulnerable, feeling exposed and self-conscious.
That's what it means.
And then you have it's like people seeing through you for who you really are. And we use our clothes. How do we use our clothes to give us that
protection,
the role that we play? Protection and the role we play. And without that, people see right through you and you feel vulnerable and exposed. So that's another dream. Drowning, lots of water dreams. So water is about emotions. So whenever engulfed in water, it's all about feeling overwhelmed emotionally in your everyday life. Drowning is part of that too. When I'm just drowning in admin, in things that I've got to do, or just my emotional life is so much to bear. Not being prepared for exams, for example, running late, going into the wrong room, missing your bus or your train, your plane. These days, not so much a plane, but travel. And snakes. Snakes are another major theme, would you believe?
What do they mean?
Yep. So in today's world, anything to do with a snake, other than we live in Australia and in summer, the news is always full of snakes being in odd places where they shouldn't be.
So it was in Woolies the other day in the spice rack. Someone went to go buy some spices for a chicken, and there's this lovely snake that came to help her pick which one to have for dinner. So yeah.
That's right. So Australia, we're always, seeing these sort of news items, but it basically is about a silent threat, that we feel that there's a silent threat ready to strike when we least expect it in our everyday life. So as I say, it's really, when you look into it, you can sort of get an idea where you are at in life through those dream themes. That makes sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to touch on, so at what phase of our sleep cycle do we dream in? I understand the primary dreaming stage of our sleep occurs, I think, about 90 minutes after we fall asleep. And that's where what they call the rapid eye movement stage that you mentioned before, which is REM. So is it true that sleep cycle lasts roughly about 10 minutes the first time, and then it increases each time we go through that particular cycle in our sleep? So the final REM sleep usually lasts for about 60 minutes. Is that why we usually always remember our last dream before we wake up? Because that sleep cycle and that REM sleep cycle is a little bit longer than the one when we first fall asleep?
You've got it perfect there, Rachel. Perfect. That's exactly what happens. So we have about 5 cycles of sleep. So when you first fall off to sleep, you've got to wait for that much deeper stage. And yes, about 90 minutes in, and it's every 90 minutes after that. So you start off with a couple of minutes, then the second stage will be a little bit longer, till we have that final stage in the morning where it's much longer, and we wake up and we do remember it because we've been in that stage for much longer than before. And so we have up to 10 to 20, some people are going to have up to 20 dreams. Others can have 10, the average is 8 to 10 dreams per night.
My goodness, that's a lot.
Yeah, there is. And so we remember, depending, and some people wake up in the middle of the night, perhaps after that dream sequence, the REM sleep, and they will remember it. And if you write it down, that's the whole trick to dreams. If you can record it, you will always have a record of it. But people tend to go back to sleep, and guess what? They've forgotten it. In 5 minutes, you forget about 80% of your dream. So,
and I understand that there's 5 main types of dreams. There's normal dreams, there's daydreams, there's the lucid dreams. I understand they're the dreams that feel really real, the lucid ones. There's false awakening dreams, and of course, we've got nightmares. So is it true that we remember our dreams, I guess, the ones that are most emotionally connected to us in general. You mentioned that earlier on.
That's correct, Rachel. So the dream that has the most emotional impact on you is the one you're going to more likely to remember. So nightmares, well, that's probably the holy grail of all dreams. You do remember that the most because some people wake up straight after a terrible nightmare, and children in particular. And so, of course, you're going to remember that the most because your body physiologically feels that it's real. Because in your dream state, your body doesn't know between what's real and what isn't.
Yeah.
So you actually are feeling all those emotions. And so, yes, definitely that's what keeps you, that connection to your emotions is the trick to recalling the dream.
And how about children? I understand that children begin dreaming sometime in their first year of life, and that they have limited ability, of course, in those early stages to distinguish dreams from reality or fantasy. But until they're about sort of school age, sort of 4 or 5 years of age, I just wanted to sort of touch on that for a moment.
Yeah, so kids, the little ones, probably 3 to 4 years old is when they first start to dream about themselves.
Yep.
Before that, they're not dreaming about, they're not in the dream. So it's not, we haven't really recorded what children dream prior to 3 or 4 years old.
Mm-hmm.
But as you say, as they get a little bit old, 5 or 6, probably up to 7 is when they have quite vivid dreams. And your 7 to 8 year olds have the nightmares, the greater, I suppose that's the biggest age group where they have nightmares, because that's when life gets more complicated, when life doesn't feel as safe, when things that they experience during the day become real to them. So,
Yes.
For example, when they're, I suppose, being, what's the word?
Challenged
things
in
that
life.
impact them. Things, but what we consider challenge, Rachel, is not what children consider challenge.
Of
So
course, yes.
moving to a new school, having a new sibling in the family, any changes in the family to them is quite emotional. We talked about dreams and emotion. It really connects with them emotionally. It affects them greatly.
Yeah.
And so abandonment, for example, we think abandonment, what, mum leaving the room for, as they're younger, mum leaving the room for 5 minutes could be terrifying for a 3-year-old. As they get older, it could be that mum and dad have gone, away for a weekend, or they're not there. Much greater emotional impact on them. Yeah.
Are children's dreams and nightmares similar in theme to many adult ones, or are they different?
Yeah, that's a really good question. The feelings are the same in terms of the emotions are the same. However, the themes are quite different. So children will dream, for example, of monsters. They will dream of animals, animals turning feral more than anything else. They will dream of that being left alone, that abandonment. I guess those are the things that are a little bit different to how adults would dream. So a monster, for example, could be mum's really cranky today, or the teacher's not as nice as she usually is. And the child will dream that night that mum has turned into this witch and mum is after you, and it's no longer mum, but it's a witch, and they wake up screaming. So all those, it's quite interesting how the child's psyche works to us. So a monster is quite a different concept that we have when a monster is chasing us than what children have.
That's fascinating. And also I wanted to ask about pregnancy. I mean, does pregnancy change our dreams? And if so, how? Because I read that during pregnancy, a lot of women will notice a difference in the frequency and I guess in the types of dreams that they have. And it's not uncommon, for pregnant women to remember more of their dreams and to experience much more vivid dreams and potentially even struggle with nightmares also. I'd love to know about this.
Thanks, Rachel. My daughter's pregnant at the moment, so I know because she rings me to tell me some of the weirdest dreams that she's having. And yes, it is hormonal. So with the hormones, you do remember the dreams more. They are more vivid because your cycle's changing, your hormones are changing, you're waking up to go to the toilet more often during the night. So you do remember, we talked about those REM sleep cycles.
Yeah.
So you're waking up in between and you're remembering them. You're not waiting till the morning to remember them. You're constantly remembering all the dreams during the night. And they are more vivid. And a lot of them are based on obviously fears for just anxiety and fears as a new mum. That is, I suppose, and things that you see during the day, you reflect on them a lot more, because we are more exposed. We're at home a lot more. We're watching the television a lot more. We hear things. And as a mum, and you're carrying this new baby, most of your concern is about this new little bundle of joy. And of course, you're going to be worried more. And so you will have dreams that are, for example, I don't know, a little baby, you're having a baby, but it's actually a little lamb when you give birth, and it's in a little, flower pot somewhere in the garden, and you're looking for him. It's all these feelings of, will I be able to take care of my child? What world am I bringing the child into? Am I going to be okay? Is the baby going to be okay? Is the rest of my family okay? So I think that's where it's coming from.
Interesting. And with everything that's happening around the world at the moment, of course, very close to home here, how has COVID affected people's dreams? Is there something such as an ISO dream or nightmare? I'd love to know.
Yes, in short, very much so, actually. So there have been studies all around the world that this phenomena is happening everywhere else around the world, because we're all in some form. We're in lockdown. I'm in Victoria, and we've had lockdown for a long time. So I've been able to actually study some of the people who come to me with their dreams. So at the end of the day, when we are feeling threatened, when we're feeling vulnerable as a species, obviously, psychologically, we feel this when we are in our deepest sleep state, is the time that, remember we talked about repressing emotions. We have to stay strong during the day. We have to function. You and I and other people have to work, have families. We need to move on with life. However, that threat that hangs over us is constantly there. And of course, it does come out in our sleep states. We're sleeping a lot longer because we're not having to get up earlier in the morning, but it's more interrupted sleep. So it's longer sleep, more interrupted. You do tend to remember your dreams a little bit more, and they are more anxious-based dreams. What I found fascinating was that the beginning of the pandemic, early 2019, people were dreaming of bugs because they thought COVID-19 was a bug. And so all over the world, people were reporting, dreaming of spiders and wasps and all these strange clusters of bugs. And then as COVID changed in its patterns and how it affected people, it moved on to things such as intruders. So people were dreaming about violence around them and people intruding and breaking into their houses and feeling some sort of violation, because guess what? COVID was an uninvited guest at the end of the day, and it was intruding in their lives, and it was imposing on them. And then the next stage, interestingly, was when we were locked down, and guess what? They were dreaming about being lost in places such as stadiums, theatres, outdoor places where once upon a time they could be there, such as Disneyland, that they could have fun. All those were closed, broken, not working properly. Again, it really reflected their everyday state of being. And now that we're in ISO dreams, people are really feeling, again, grief and loss, and quite a lot of death dreams that are seeming to come. So death is not necessarily death as in physical death, even though that's what the dream's telling them, but it's about an ending of the life as we know it. That life is no longer there, and we are grieving the loss of the life we've lost and the people we can't see. And in our psyche, in our subconscious mind, it suggests that those people are gone, they're lost, they're dead to us, even though they're not. So they're the themes that are coming up at the moment.
That's really fascinating. So with that said, how do we work through disturbing dreams? Do you have any tips at all?
The important thing to remember is that we are such intricate human beings, and our subconscious mind is there to protect us more than anything else. It's not there just to scare us for the sake of scaring us. So dreams have their place, and they are a great way to get in touch with your inner emotions. So what is really going on? Even though I can't express how I feel, but guess what? You know what's going on. And the first thing is the most important thing I believe in psychology in any form is knowing yourself. That self-actualization. So I know who I am and I know how I feel. And now that I know, I can do something about it. So I'm really scared right now. And guess what? I'm not going to watch TV before I go to bed. I'm switching off the news between this time and that time and not looking at how many more COVID deaths / people have caught
we
COVID.
have. Yep.
The updates, as you know, every hour updates. And I think that feeds into our fears and that, as I said, that feeling of vulnerability.
Yes.
And they're the things you can do for yourself.
Yeah. And just going back to what you were saying earlier about, I guess, us remembering our dreams too, because that's probably the most frustrating thing a lot of us sort of have experienced and do experience is when you do wake up and you know you've had a dream, and if you don't capture that feeling and that emotion, that narrative and that theme straight away, it does dissipate, and then all of a sudden the cells in your brain change and all of a sudden it's gone. So I just love to just in finishing, love to know what are some of the tools that we can use to remember our dreams, because in your article you list some helpful methods for undertaking our own dream interpretation. I just love if you could just quickly just go through some of them with us now, because once again, no doubt there are some hidden messages that our dreams are telling us, and it's always good to be able to capture them and remember them.
Absolutely. I think it's important. I don't think you need to stress about remembering every dream, because the ones you're not meant to remember, you don't remember. It's really just for yourself to know internally. You don't need to externalize it. However, for those dreams that you just miss out, you wake up and you know, I just knew I had that dream. Where is it? Where did it go? Why can't I remember it? When the alarm goes off, and especially if it's a loud alarm, it actually jolts us out of that dream space, and the memory is gone very, very quickly, as I explained before. If you can just close your eyes and go back into that dream state, your brain thinks, I'm still in my dream state. I could catch a little bit of it. So you close your eyes, so your mind thinks, I'm still in my sleep state, and just turn off that alarm and just lie in bed for just a couple of minutes with your eyes closed. Breathe just gently and try to recapture the emotion first, because the emotion will trigger the image. And many times you can recapture it. I always say to myself, what was that emotion? Oh, I felt really this way or that way. And slowly, slowly, the mind recreates the image. And then as soon as I can, I always have pen and paper next to my bed. I have a little dream journal that I capture, and I just write it down as I feel it, and just write it down and capture whatever that essence of it is. And sometimes during the day, you can recapture some of the dream that you've had. If you want to tell, what I also do is tell someone, if I have a partner, and I say, you'll never believe the dream I had. And by telling it and retelling it, it creates those grooves in your brain that you can remember it. And then once you have it written down, the
words may even trigger the hidden message of the dream, do you think, an underlying theme?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, you're lost. Okay. Oh, it's lost. Even if you just feel that emotion, feeling lost, feeling sad, feeling deliriously happy, then it can trigger those emotions, those images back once the emotions are down. And then you can see in your diary, you go, oh, well, gee, that's strange. 2 weeks ago, I had this planned and I had to cancel it. No wonder I'm feeling disappointed, lost, or whatever that might be. And it gives you your own little dream interpretations about what's going on in your life, because dreams are unique to us. Yeah.
And do we have to make those connections to the real life image or situations in our life as well? Is it making that connection important?
I think it's really essential, Rachel. I really do. I think, as I said, most of our dreams relate to our own life experiences and emotions that we're going through. And they just give us a hint as to, this is where you're at. What can you do about it? And it gives you the option to work on those things that at the moment have come up for you. This is the ideal time to do it, whether it's anger, whether it's grief, whatever it might be, those feelings. This is a good time to recognize them and say, yep, maybe when we're out of all this, I can really do something to work on those things.
Yeah. And I guess the more that we practice interpreting our dreams, I guess we'll have a better understanding of them, and it will just maybe help us link maybe consistent messages in our subconscious minds and what they're trying to tell us as well. I wanted to ask you also about dream dictionaries. We used to have one at home when I used to live at home with mum and dad. And very often, if I did remember a dream back then, I would sort of, run to the dictionary in the morning and then try to look up the meaning and those types of things. So how can they help interpret our dreams? And what are your thoughts on them?
Good question. I actually did write a dictionary of dreams, by the way. So look, they're tools. It's not, don't take it to heart in terms like, don't make that your Bible, because we're all very different. As I said, your dream is unique to you, but they're prompts. They're little prompts for you to dig deeper into it. So as I said about water before, so it's very generic. Water means emotions, but how does it relate to your emotions? If that's what it is, it's not about you're going to be drowning soon or there's going to be a flood. It's not that predictive, old-fashioned way of interpreting dreams, which used to be the old dictionaries was like, oh, well, this disaster is about to happen.
Locusts.
Or,
yeah, of course.
Exactly.
But it seems like the most common themes, and this is what I'm hearing, and tell me if it's correct or not, but the most common life themes that show up in our dreams are really to do with either relationships or our self-esteem. Would you say that they're the two, I guess, most common and broad common themes that people experience?
I would say so on a personal level, that really, and work is, so relationships are both personal, but also relationship with work, because they're the two. If you look at what takes up most of your time, let's be logical. What takes up most of your time is what you're going to dream about the most. So if you spend more time with, relationships, say private, personal relationships, you're going to dream about that a lot more than if you spend more time at work. So you're looking at it that way from a practical perspective, very much so. But then let's not forget that dreams are not just about what's going on. We are much bigger than that. If you're a spiritual person, you're going to have more illuminating dreams that are much higher than just being in the now, because dreams can be very uplifting and give us hope. And sometimes people dream of people who've passed away coming in to tell them some message. And that's our higher self trying to get some message across too. So that can be really uplifting. Sometimes there's a solution to be solved. How many times I know I go to bed and I write myself a little note saying, I've got this problem, I really want to solve it. And I ask my subconscious mind, listen, I need some help here. I can't see what to do about this. And more often than not, because I've put it down and I've got that intention to do it, I do wake up in the mornings, most mornings, with some sort of a better idea, a clearer idea of what I should be doing to get my desired results.
Interesting that you're talking about that spiritual aspect. And I'd just love to understand a little bit more about how people can tap into that, because it isn't that some people have that ability and others don't. Everybody has that ability. And it's just a matter of, I guess, wanting to access that part of our brain and that part of ourselves. I've had some very vivid dreams that I remembered a long time ago, not that often. As I said before, I don't remember all that much, but where I've actually traveled and been overseas, but I've actually felt like I've visited some friends overseas and those types of things. But I if I was there or not, I don't know. From a spiritual aspect, when you're saying accessing these things from your higher self, do you have any tips for anyone watching and listening that may want to tap into that part of our brain and explore that a little bit more?
Well, yes, look, you're absolutely right in terms that we all have that spiritual aspect to us. So it's not this mystical, only some people can do it.
Everybody can.
If you practice, everybody can. But it's a matter of being willing and being open to, because we're very critical of that. Go, it can't be. It's not, it's not possible. So you have to have a willingness to be open and say everything is possible. And also have some practices, everyday life, so that you invite it in. Spirit needs to be invited in. I feel it's not just going to knock at your door. If you've always sort of said, that's not for me, I don't want to go there, and you poo-hoo it, you're not likely to recognize it. So whether it's listening to some beautiful music, to doing when I say meditation, it doesn't have to be formal. It just could be gratitude. It could be walking outside and just be grateful for the sun, the air, whatever's around you. That's a spiritual prayer in itself. And so being in that space in your waking hours, when you are asleep, that same state of being is allowed to enter, and then you'll have access, whether you're as you say, you sound like that was an astral travel experience, which is quite likely to happen because our bodies stay where they are, but our souls can wander off and be wherever they want to be. Lucid dreaming is another way people access. It's not so much spiritual, it's more just leaving that part of being awake in your dreams. Be very mindful. It's a very Buddhist practice to do that mindfulness and being in that mindful state. And shamans in ancient cultures have constantly known how to be in these altered states when they've been in their dream state.
Is the tip before you fall asleep is willing in your conscious mind, sort of asking and or just being in that space, and maybe, as you said before, accessing that part of our brain to maybe have answers given to us from our higher self as well. So before we fall asleep, actually asking for it. I always think in life, if you don't ask, you don't get. And as you've just stated quite clearly and beautifully, that we do need to be willing in that mindset to be able to have these things invited into our conscious and subconscious mind. So is that, I guess, one tip, I guess, for people to start practicing before they fall asleep, to be mindful what headspace that they're in. As you mentioned, there's fantastic apps and all kinds of, tech devices that can sort of help us fall asleep and fall into, I guess, that frame of mind before we fall asleep, which will most possibly open up the opportunities when we are in that deep REM sleep cycle. Like, what are your thoughts?
Look, intention to me is everything. So you need to have intention that you're going to have this experience. So you rightly say, you prepare yourself for your sleep rather than just crashing to bed. If you are looking for something a little bit more spiritually inclined, set your bedroom up to look and feel beautiful. So you're in this you go into this beautiful sleep, and you say, I'm going to go into another state of being while I'm asleep. I want to receive messages that will help. It's for my greater good, that will help me grow. And so just setting that intention in your mind and really believing it. And you have to believe that that is what's going to happen, rather than just say it, as in, oh, it's just something to say, but setting yourself up for that. Because as you know, even when you're having hypnosis, it's about being in that frame of mind, that state of being receptive to what is being suggested. Your subconscious mind doesn't know the difference. It doesn't know if it's real or not. It's what you tell it to do. And it can be just a beautiful time before you go to sleep. Just relax, put some music on. There are lots of apps that can help you get into that state, and just believe that it's going to be a beautiful experience. And whatever you encounter in that sleep could be life-changing for you. It could really make a difference to your everyday life.
And I think that's something that people need, no doubt, more so than ever with what's happening and what people are experiencing in life at the moment with COVID. So it's wonderful advice and tips that you've given us. And I've really loved this chat today, Rose. If you were, to summarize, I guess, your key messages for anyone watching and listening today, what would they be?
Dreams are important. To remember your dreams, you must record them in one way or another, because they're an important record of what goes on in your subconscious mind. Our emotions are key to our dream state. So make sure that your emotions are kept in check, that you record them, and whatever you remember the most, that is something that is a personal message for you to do something about it. So don't just leave your dream, oh, it's dead and gone, it's dusted. Do something with the dream. Honor your dream. Do something with that dream.
Wonderful. If anyone's got any questions for you and or would like to access and purchase one of your books as well, whereabouts can they find you?
I'm in all good stores, I believe. Rockpool Publishing is my publisher. You can get it through Rockpool Publishing if you wish, or on my website, if that's easier for people.
All those links in our show notes. Rose, it's been absolutely wonderful chatting with you today. I've learned so much. You take care. And again, because you've done so much stuff, I'd love to have the opportunity to chat with you again in the future. But until then, take care and stay safe. See ya.
Thanks, Rachel. Been a pleasure. Bye.
Bye.